Is the iPhone 14 Pro really that much better than the 13 Pro? Well, in this video, I'm going to skip the specs and talk about my real world experience using this new phone, every single difference that I notice day to day. And I'm gonna talk about a couple major downsides that Apple has to fix, as well as some kind of annoyances and a lot of improvements that matter. Now, the first thing I wanna talk about is reception and cellular speeds, because that can make or break if you can actually use your device. Now, when we first got our hands on the new phones, I tested outside my office with 5G and it went from 125 with the 13 Pro up to 245. So that is almost twice the speed, and upload from 30 to 46. Now, I know that some people say they have faster speeds than that, but keep in mind, this is using the same network at the same place. The only difference is the phone, so that's the kind of upgrade you see, but it gets better. I tested at my church where we only have LTE, and I went from 9 megabit per second up to 75, and from one upload to 2.45. That is a massive difference, with the only change being the actual phone. And that is because it actually showed me 3 bars of reception instead of 1. That is crazy. Now, in my basement, I also only have LTE and it is slow, but thankfully it went from 15 megabit per second up to 65 and from 4 up to 25. That is so nice to have. Now, I also tested downtown where we have mid-band, and it went up to 555 instead of 350 and 67 upload instead of 60. So if you're somebody that is struggling with reception or speeds, just upgrade to the new phone will give you much better reception and speeds. Now, on the downside, I am struggling with the eSIM. Now, switching it over wasn't too hard, but I occasionally get some pop-ups saying my phone number doesn't work, switch to the other one, where I only have one, and that is annoying. But on the positive side, I also noticed that Bluetooth is working much better. My range is better, the connection goes faster, in particular with my AirPods, where sometimes if it doesn't auto switch to my phone, I have to tap on it, it transfers over much quicker than before. Now, one thing that really popped out to me was the new display brightness, being able to hit that 2000 nits, and that is so nice if you're outside in the sun, and especially if you do things like flying a drone. Now, before I remind you guys of my horror story, I have to say that the 13 Pro can hit 1200 nits, so it's not bad, but a lot of times it would dim to 800 if you're using your phone in the sun, or as low as 300 if you're using cellular with GPS and it is charging, which also slows down that charging and it hurts your battery longevity. This video sponsor, ESR, fixes that with their just launched fastest MagSafe charger for iPhones in use. Level up your MagSafe with their HaloLock 3-in-1 wireless charger with Cryo Boost, so your wireless charging won't slow down due to heat, and it increases battery longevity. Now, I was honestly shocked by how nice this thing is with its real aluminum parts, the adjustable angles, its magnetic alignment for AirPods, and that includes a power adapter. And also, the spacing is perfect for the new large camera bumps, and the cooling fan is actually surprisingly quiet, but it could also be shut off along with the lights, so I think that this is the best 3-in-1 charger for the price. They also have their HaloLock mini wireless power banks with an adjustable kickstand, as well as the wired charging output and a strong magnet that you can pair with ESR's cases that have stronger magnetic holding force than Apple's, like their HaloLock kickstand case that gives you added protection and a clever kickstand, or their Crystec clear case with very good anti-yellowing. Get 20% off the products by using the links below with this code, or search for ESR HaloLock on Amazon. Back to my drone, I crashed and broke it because my phone dimmed so much in the sun that I couldn't see anything. So that 2000 nit is so helpful with drones and even for everyday use out in the sun. Now, yes, it can dim if it gets too hot, so I won't say at 2000 forever, but it's still better than before. And as for overheating and dimming when gaming, heat is dissipated much better now that Apple is focusing on thermals, and it shows. And while the phone does still dim if you start at max brightness, so far when I've gamed, it is way better than before. Now, as for the always-on display, I'm so happy they finally added it, and it is way better than Samsung's implementation. And one thing that a lot of people don't know is that if you have an Apple Watch and you walk away from your phone, that display will shut off to save battery. More on that in just a bit. Now, I do have one complaint about it. I think in many cases it is too bright. A couple times I thought thought it was turned on. For example, at church, I had my phone next to me and it looked like it was on. I think there has to be an adjustment for the always on display brightness in the settings instead of just that one switch to turn it off. The next thing that I want to talk about is the battery life now that I have a good amount of use with it, and unfortunately it is worse than expected. Now some tests online show that the 14 Pros have better battery life, but keep in mind those tests don't test out the always on display with standby or the peak brightness. It's usually capped at the same with all phones. Earlier this week I had 18% left at only 4:30 p.m. That is a lot worse than my 13 Pro, which is a year old and only has 91% battery capacity left. Now some people have said that this is because of iOS 16, and I really hope so, because if the battery life is this bad due to the always on display and brightness, I will be forced to use the Pro Max this year to get some decent battery life. Now one thing that shocked me were the speakers. They are a huge improvement in every single way. If you guys want to hear it compared to 13 Pro Max, go ahead and take a listen. I know, that is probably tough to believe, but Apple's made some huge improvements not only for music and videos, just when making calls, the clarity and the loudness that you can get is so much better, and that is awesome for environments that are really loud. And now we have to talk about the dynamic island. It is cool, but I almost want to call it a gimmick. I know some of you guys might get upset, and that's okay. I just want to say that it is not a necessity, even though we're so tired of that notch. I feel like sometimes some things are slower, like Face ID popping up for app downloads and payments, just because it wants to do that cool animation. When watching videos, I feel like it is more distracting if you full screen it, because you see the video moving between the island and the bezel, whereas the notch was just part of that bezel. With Samsung phones, you don't really notice it because the hole punch is so small, where here the pill is very big, and because Apple decided to turn off a bunch of pixels around it to make it easier for manufacturing, which you can see in bright lights, it just makes it look even bigger. Now as for the cameras, there is a lot to say. Some really good and some not so good and annoying, but I want to let you guys know that I'm making an insanely detailed comparison like I did last year, but with the 14 Pro, the 13 Pro, and the 12 Pro Max. So if you guys want to see the most concise comparison of every photo and video mode, make sure you guys click that subscribe button down below. Starting with video, the cinematic mode is actually usable now, even for YouTube videos, way more accurate. It has 4K HDR now, and it looks way better than Samsung flagships, even though they had a 2-year head start. As far as the action mode, it works amazing. Not as crazy as they showed off on stage, since they showed off no stabilization versus the action mode, but it is still very good, and once again better than Samsung's, where they also had such a big head start. As for photos, my biggest complaint with the 13 Pro was the poor HDR for selfie shots compared to Android, as well as poor HDR for the ultra wide shots and the detail and zoom shots with that 3x lens. Now I was really bummed that Apple did not upgrade the 3x lens. It's the only one that's the same from the iPhone 13 Pro, but thankfully the shots look a lot better because of the new processing. Now, not as good as Samsung's with that 10x camera, but it is still much improved and looks almost like they put in a new sensor and lens. Unfortunately, selfie HDR is still underwhelming, and the same thing goes for ultra wide shots. It has barely gotten any better, and I know that the cameras are more than capable, but Apple just does not want to pull back the highlights. One thing that has really surprised me and come in handy is that 2x lens that is fake. Now, I'm all against digital crop, but in this case, it looks dang good. Now, part of it is because the uncropped 1x lens doesn't look that much more detailed than the 12 megapixel photos from the 13 Pro, and that's because Apple doesn't save it in 48 megapixels. To get the full detail, you have to shoot in ProRAW, and then it looks amazing, but the size goes from about 2 megabytes up to about 75. That is 30 times the file size. Now, Samsung's 50 megapixel photos from the Z Fold 4 only use 12 megabytes compared to their regular JPEGs, which use around 3. So that is 4 times larger, which makes sense because you have 4 times more pixels. So Apple really needs to allow us to record all the resolution without having ProRAW. Now, what is even worse is how Apple is handling these. If you want to shoot 48 megapixels because it looks really good, but at the same time, you don't want to keep those massive files forever, there is no easy way to convert to a small file and delete the RAW. I had to do a lot of digging to figure out how it would be possible, and there's a few ways where you can connect it to your computer with a cable and use the Photos app, but the simplest one I found is to export your image to the Files app, let it upload if it's your iCloud drive, and then select the image and then share it and move it back to your photo roll. And then go back to Photos, find the RAW, and then delete it. And even then, that only works if you edited the image. If you didn't, then it will transfer the original huge file. And if you did edit the image, but then you want to transfer the full resolution to edit, well, you can't do that. You have to undo all the edits first, and then you can transfer it. This is crazy. There should be a pop-up that asks you which version you want to export, and also an option to convert to JPEG and automatically delete the RAW. As of now, Apple is just telling people that the ProRAW files take up a lot of space and you will run out of room, and you should upgrade your storage if you have iCloud. Go get the new plan, and there's even a link there to help you to spend more money. All right, I gotta calm down a little bit and just say that after all this real-world use and testing, overall, I am very happy, mainly due to the reception and the speed improvements, as well as the convenience of the always-on display that I wanted for a long time, and the huge speaker boost. For me, this is a good upgrade from the 13 Pro, and I would not regret it even if I did not have this channel. So if you guys are ready for an upgrade, you're looking at the 14 Pro, I think you'll be very happy. So there you guys go. Go ahead and click that subscribe button above if you guys want to see my super detailed ultimate camera comparison. Check out one of those videos right there. This is Max, and I'll see you in the next video.